I want to give my sincere appreciation to Seniors NL, who very graciously agreed to host us this morning for this announcement. I also want to thank the many community groups who have joined us today. I know my Premier and our government have so much respect for the work that you do each and every day to support and empower people in many aspects of their lives. Community groups often rely upon a dedicated team of volunteers who give their time to help individuals, and in turn you help society as a whole. Just last week we celebrated National Volunteer Week, and so I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you for all of the contributions that you as volunteers make to our province. It is often said that volunteers are the backbone, and the work they do through community groups are the backbone of our society. The work of volunteers is crucial in advancing the social and economic well-being of our province. And the Premier's heard me say this before. I often say volunteers do not get paid not because they're worthless, but because you're priceless. So thank you. And having said that, I now invite the Honourable Dwight Baum, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, to speak. Thank you.
I've always got these quotes from her grandmother. Sooner or later, I think she's going to write a book. And she did mention, as I need to start this morning, about just in recognition of volunteers too. I think everyone in this room, for sure, at some point in your life has been a volunteer. So I want to thank everyone. But there's one person, as I came to the door this morning, so eagerly said to me, "Lorraine, where are we to? Where are we to? Wait." Oh. Lorraine Best, and she said to me this morning as I came to the door, 24 years of volunteering. I also notice, if you look over my left shoulder, there's a little quote it says, "We listen to you and help you make informed decisions." I would actually, from a government's point of view, just switch that around a little bit and say that we listen to you as government, and you help us make informed decisions. Because in actual fact, that's what this morning is all about. So as many of you know, back in 2016, we launched the Way Forward, which is our vision for growth and sustainability in Newfoundland and Labrador. And within that document, within that vision document, they were really based on three phases, but 4 pillars. And for us, it was really about strengthening the economy, of course, achieving efficiencies as we spend taxpayers' money, that we get the most efficient outcomes, but also improving services and achieving the better outcomes that I just mentioned. But I've also known that if we're going to have success in life, this goes for all of us, that the strength in any plan, the strength in any vision will come from great partnerships. And we developed every one of our actions based on the feedback, the insights, the experience that others, either from industry, from our communities, our cultural community, and so on, the insights and the actions that have come out of our Way Forward document has been informed decisions based on the feedback that we've received from our communities. And as a result of these series of actions, there's about 100 of them now in our Way Forward document. We released some 30 just yesterday. All of this was put in place to create meaningful benefits to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And when we began developing the vision, as I just said, we heard from many of our partners, one of them being our community sector groups, and many of you are represented here today. And we have thousands across our province in every single community. There are volunteer groups improving the lives of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians of all ages. And our government, we recognize, I will tell you, all the time has recognized quite early, that we would help them where we could. And in particular, because it was important for us that those volunteers are supporting and helping some of the most vulnerable in our society. People that really need help, they need people to advocate on their behalf. And in doing so, we also knew that this would create greater stability, and from the government's funding point of view, it would give us an assurance that money was well managed. But also, if we supported our community groups, well, what would happen is it would help those groups plan better, focus more on delivery of services and programs, and make longer-term decisions based on staffing. Ironically enough, I mean, in opposition, I heard these comments many times. I remember going to some AGM, lots of AGMs, community groups and so on, in opposition. And I will tell you, groups often came up to me and said, I find it difficult as an executive director or someone who's leading an association or group that every year I'm worried and concerned about where my funding comes from. And I spend more time using applying for applications than I'm actually doing the things that I want to do. So the administrative burden was actually taking over, taking people away from providing the necessary services, the things that they really enjoy doing, and they could improve outcomes for people. So we've heard that. And back when we ran our election on our election platform, a single point of entry and multi-year funding was important to me, because I've been in your shoes. I've led community groups, and I too knew how difficult it was to access government funding, and I did know how unstable that made decisions, especially around young people that you're using to support your groups. And they're always constantly looking for a job because they needed stability in their own lives as well. So this one window or approach was something that was important for us. And just yesterday we announced Digital by Design, which in some ways is very similar to the announcement that we're making here today, so that as you access government services, you do so with Digital by Design by one portal as well. So all of this, why we do this, obviously, is to improve services and to improve outcomes, but also to simplify the processes that we often put you through. We also know that in doing so, that this will create just not better social impacts, but there's a big economic impact as well. So when your groups are working well, there is an economic impact with that. So in doing the excellent work that I just talked about, we had to come up with a list of community groups that we feel that we're positioned because of the work that you're doing, so that we can support you with long-term funding. A key partner, of course, in our decision was the Community Sector Council, CEO Penny Rowe with us here today. And I will say that I am really looking forward to working with Penny and many of her colleagues around the province and other associations as well, as we bring recognition to the deserving organizations and to support the economic contributions of the nonprofit organizations that we have in our province. So I think everyone would agree that this one window, multi-year approach, there's value in that for all of us in this room. So then we have to pick the groups. And I think I read a sign when I was coming in that's about decisions. It takes courage sometimes to make decisions. So in this job, we have to pick the people that we can support, but we must have the rationale. And the 22 community groups that we'll start with in this first phase, people like the Community Sector Council, just to list them off for you, there's 22 groups that we will be supporting through this multi-year funding. The Community Sector Council, the Aboriginal Sport and Recreation Circle, the AIDS Committee of Newfoundland and Labrador, the Association of New Canadians, the Bay St. George Status of Women Association, the Canadian Mental Health Association, and the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, the Coalition of Persons with Disabilities, the Cornwall Status of Women Council, Choices for Youth, Consumer Health Awareness Network, Newfoundland and Labrador, the Gateway Status of Women's Council, the Gander Status of Women's Council, Kids Eat Smart, Labrador West Status of Women's Council, Okami Status of Women's Council, the Newfoundland and Labrador Aboriginal Women's Association, Seniors NL, Status of Women in Central, the Stella Circle Community Services, the St. John's Status of Women Council, and the Vera Berlin Society. So these are the 22 community groups that we will be supporting, and there's a reason for that. I mean, when you look at the board of directors, the people that have a broad reach across our province, the work that you do and the consistency that you've shown over the years are all important. And we're hoping that over the years we can expand on this list as community groups do the great work and continue to do the great work. We wanted to start with a smaller group to make sure that this working relationship works for all of us, but certainly our plan would be to expand on this list over the years. So with this said, I appreciate your time this morning, and your interest in, and the level of interest that you brought to us on how important it is that multi-year funding would mean to your associations. But more importantly, that we continue to work with each other in strong partnerships, providing services to people that need them the most. So I'll leave you with one comment, and that is simply say thank you once again for all the great work that you're doing. But more importantly, on behalf of the people that use your services, we really appreciate the impact that you're having on their lives. So thank you very much.
Premier says I have all the quotes, but he also had a little saying that I haven't heard him say it lately, but he used to say it: if you can't listen, you can't lead. And I was just thinking as he was sharing that information that, Premier, that's great news, and that is an example to the people of the province that you are listening, because it's something we didn't acknowledge. We have 4 MHAs here in the front row, and they work every day on behalf of you people as well in the province, and I'm sure it's something they heard from their constituents and community groups that we need multi-year funding for extra security and stability. In my own department of Children, Seniors and Social Development, we partner with a number of community groups. For example, our department has worked closely with Seniors NL on a number of initiatives, and we recognize the important work that Seniors NL does to support seniors in our province. There is a saying which goes, if you want to touch the past, touch a rock. If you want to touch the present, touch a flower. But if you want to touch the future, touch a life. And I know that's what community groups do every single day. I think that saying really resonates, and I thought it was appropriate to share. All of the 22 community groups who are involved in the first phase of this one window multi-year funding have dedicated staff and volunteers whose work help every day to uplift individuals and communities. Even a small interaction can change the course of someone's life, and I'm in the company of people who would know that better than anyone else. There is no greater feeling than knowing you are making a difference in someone's life. I look forward to continued work with community groups, and it is my hope that this multi-year funding process will result in more stability for community organizations, so that they can focus less, as the Premier alluded to, on application writing and more on the incredible work that you do each day. And I am also confident that once we have completed a full evaluation of Phase 1, we will be able to extend multi-year funding to more community groups in the future. One of the groups which my department will be the point of contact for is Seniors NL. And I now invite Chair Janet Lilly to say a few words about how multi-year funding may benefit her organization and seniors in our province. Janet?
Well, good morning and welcome to everyone to Seniors NL. It's a beautiful day out there, which has already been commented on, but we can't say it too much because we always have such long winters. And this, I think, is one of the first winters that hasn't been long. And it's been great for a lot of seniors because they can get out and walk around. We'd like to welcome Premier Dwight Ball and Minister Lisa Dempsey and the honored MHAs and the Seniors NL Board of Governors and our honored guests. It's a great honor for Seniors NL to be chosen as the site of the multi-year funding announcement and are pleased to be part of this program. Seniors NL is an information, referral, and resource center. Our information line and our valued 150-plus peer support volunteers program from all around the province are examples of services we provide. For the past 26 years, Seniors NL, formerly the Seniors Resource Center, has worked hand in hand with government agencies, various agencies, community organizations, and concerned citizens to disseminate valuable knowledge and resources to seniors, families, concerned friends. These resources and referrals make it more informative decision-making for a healthier, more active, and fuller lifestyles for our seniors in this province. We would like to thank the provincial government for their forward thinking in developing this multi-year funding program, which will give Seniors NL a financial stability that will allow us to plan for the future and to help our seniors in general. Once again, thank you and welcome to all.
Thank you, Janet. Now, the next lady, no stranger to me. I've known her and her husband for a very long time. I will now ask Penny Rowe, Chief Executive Officer of the Community Sector Council, to come and say a few words.
It's really a treat to be here, and I think it's probably easy for me to say, but well understood. This is a happy day for me to be here with so many of my colleagues, but really importantly to be here with the government and government representatives who appreciate the work that so many organizations are doing. And it was interesting, Jan, when you were speaking, when you talked about being 26 years old. And when I look around the community organizations who are here, when the Community Sector Council started, I would say maybe 90% of you didn't even exist. So it's been, there are a few like CNIB who've been around for a very long time, but it is interesting to see how our sector has grown. And part of that growth obviously has been because we've had a great relationship over the years with the provincial government, but it's often been fragmented and it's been insecure, and people haven't always had a really good appreciation for what the community sector collectively does. So I think that's what I'm feeling that is really neat about where we're heading in this province, that it's not just about individual organizations. Despite the importance of those organizations, it's actually getting this appreciation that collectively we do our work differently. We do our work differently than government, we do our work differently than the private sector, and we know that, I guess, the distinguishing feature about our sector is that volunteer-driven opportunity that comes to our organizations. But it's not just about the volunteers in our organizations. It's about the work that staff do as well. So I think this is really an exciting part of this multi-year funding announcement, that we will get down to what it is our organizations do and how we can get the best value from the people who work in our organizations, so we can divert some of those resources to better services, to streamlining what we're doing, and we hope to reducing the burden of administrative overhead, has been said. The other thing that I really like about this announcement is that it actually is part of the trajectory that I'm seeing with the provincial government, where there are all kinds of steps being taken to recognize, whether it's volunteers and all the wonderful celebrations a couple of weeks ago, whether it is this multi-funding opportunity, and also the announcement, Premier, that you made a few weeks ago, where we're going to try to start building a plan collectively with the sector, where we can better understand where we fit in the mosaic of our communities and the vitality of our province. I think there's not a person in this room who wouldn't agree that we all know that if we don't pull together, we're not going to turn the province around or move the province forward. Probably a better way of putting it. But the fact of the matter is, this gives us, I think, some renewed energy. For those of us who are going to be part of this pilot project, I think it's going to create some hard work. And I'd like to really acknowledge, in addition to the political level of government, the people who we work with every day in the bureaucracy, who work so hard, who support the work that we're doing, and who too will be taking on a particular new direction. Making a shift of this sort clearly requires policy direction, it requires good planning, and it's going to require hard work to really understand what it is we need to do. And I'd particularly like to thank Donna Ballard, who is going to be, I gather, within government leading this process, and we look forward to working with you and your team, Donna. It's, I know that when we start these new things, there's always a little bit of trepidation and a little bit of concern. And I did hear a few people say yesterday, be careful what you wish for, because none of us are quite sure yet where this is heading. But we do know if we don't try these new approaches, if we don't work collectively to make things better for community organizations, and we hope to streamline things for government as well, that we're not going to be making progress. One of the things that I think is always important when I think about the community sector is the recognition that it's so comprehensive. If you think of your communities, there's not anything, rephrase, there's very little happening that hasn't had its genesis with a group of citizens and a community organization. And when I look at the ingenuity that comes from individual citizens, it's really kind of exciting. It's exciting that we're being recognized, and it's exciting that we're being recognized as more than just the fluff around the edges, that we're actually starting to be seen as absolutely essential and absolutely critical to the economic and social well-being of our province. So Premier, Minister, and all of my colleagues, we're excited to be part of this, because I think it's going to help us be a little bit more strategic in what we're doing. It's going to help us probably zero in a little bit on those things that are critical to making our organization stronger. And it's probably particularly important when we know resources are fairly limited, that we figure out a way to spend those resources and use those resources, whether it's funding resources or human resources, in a more focused and concentrated way to do what it is we all want to do here, to continue to make our province just such an incredible place to work. I have one final comment for you. You remarked that it took courage, or sometimes you had to be brave to make decisions and to pick who you'd work with. I think I just wanted to underline that, because there's not a shrinking violet, not one shrinking violet associated with any of the organizations that you've selected. And I feel quite sure that there'll be lots of give and take as we develop this and as we evaluate it and as we learn as we go forward. So thank you for your courage. And we all look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Penny, and you tell us that you've been at this a long time, but I can tell you the passion that you still have for what you do shines and is inspirational. Thank you very much for the important work. So in closing, I'll just say thanks to all of you who took the time out of your busy day to join us for this very positive announcement, and we're really pleased to see government moving ahead on this initiative that was identified in the Way Forward. One of the pillars of the Way Forward is achieving better outcomes for the people of our province, and multi-year funding for community groups will help us deliver on that commitment in partnership with community serving organizations. And I guess I'll just sum up what I heard Penny say, but as a government, we've recognized that much of the work that community groups do runs parallel to the objectives that we have in government. So I now open the floor to media if they have any questions for myself or anybody seated in the front row. Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe.